Imagine this. You follow a leader into battle, not just a war zone, but into the war of uncertainty, risk, and sacrifice. You don't follow them because of their title or their money or their brilliance. You follow them because in your bones you trust them. Now ask yourself why. The answer is as old as civilization, character. Without it, leadership is hollow, a costume. With it, leadership becomes a force that can move mountains, mend nations, and build futures. Character is not an accessory to leadership, it is the spine. Leadership is the capacity to influence, but influence without moral grounding is manipulation, and manipulation is a form of evil. When a person in power lacks character, they exploit others, they lie, they betray, they use charm as a tool and authority as a shield. History is flooded with names of such leaders, intelligent, capable, even charismatic, who led millions to destruction because their foundation was built on ego, not virtue. Without character, leadership decays into tyranny or narcissism. Intelligence can build a machine, only character ensures it won't be used to destroy. Real character doesn't come from comfort. It emerges when you say, "I will carry the burden," when you sacrifice today's ease for tomorrow's integrity. A leader must be the first to bleed and the last to eat. That's what it means to be the tip of the spear. You must tell the truth even when it costs you. You must own your failures publicly and humbly. You must accept responsibility not just for your own actions, but for the failures of the group. That is how character is formed, not in words, but in the daily war of choices. When a leader walks into the room, their presence speaks before they do. People watch how they behave when no one claps. They see how they treat the lowest person in the hierarchy. They notice whether the leader cuts corners when no one's watching. Why? Because followers don't just follow strategy, they follow example. A dishonest leader breeds a dishonest culture. An arrogant leader breeds resentment. But a principled, self-sacrificing leader becomes a lighthouse, someone people not only follow, but believe in. Leadership is not what you say. It's what you are. Every leader hits a storm, every system breaks down. And in that moment, when your plans have failed, your resources are thin, and morale is crumbling, you discover the truth about yourself. It is not your charisma or credentials that will save you. It is your character. Will you panic or stand firm? Will you blame others or own your mistakes? Will you act out of fear or lead from principle? In crisis, character is what steadies the hand and sharpens the mind. It earns you the loyalty that no paycheck can buy. When all else fails, character remains, and sometimes that's enough to turn the tide. Leadership without character is dangerous power, not just inefficient or flawed, but actively corrosive. The very nature of leadership is influence, and when influence is divorced from morality, it mutates into something dark and destructive. The world has seen countless individuals who possessed sharp intellect, persuasive speech, and strategic mastery, yet lacked the inner core that distinguishes a just leader from a tyrant. What do you get when you give power to someone who lacks character? You get manipulation masked as charisma. You get strategy used to dominate, not serve. You get leadership that looks successful in the short term, but leaves a trail of human wreckage in the long run. The reason this is so dangerous is because character acts as the internal regulator of power. It is the compass that keeps ambition from becoming selfishness and decisiveness from becoming authoritarianism. Without that inner compass, the leader begins to see people as tools, not as souls. They make decisions based on convenience or ego rather than truth or justice. And the worst part is that this kind of leadership often looks successful at first. It gets results, it wins applause, it climbs fast, but what it builds is unstable, and what it destroys is trust, the very currency of real leadership. A leader without character may still attract followers, but they do so out of fear or opportunism, not loyalty. And fear-based systems are brittle. The moment a crisis hits or a bigger predator enters the scene, the entire structure collapses. This is because without character, a leader has no real foundation. When pressure mounts, they lie. When failure looms, they blame others. When success arrives, they hoard credit, and eventually those around them see the truth. They realize that this is not leadership, this is domination wearing a mask. You can teach someone to lead a project, to speak persuasively, or to manage a budget, but no amount of technique can make up for a lack of integrity. You cannot fake character not for long. People will sense it. They might not articulate it in words, but they'll feel it in their gut, and once they stop trusting you, your influence decays regardless of your title. Leadership that lacks character may rise quickly, but it crashes even faster and often takes others down with it. That's not just bad leadership. That's dangerous leadership. Character is not something you are born with. It's something forged painfully, slowly, and often alone. And the fire that forges it is responsibility. Not the kind you can delegate, not the kind that's convenient or praised, but the kind that demands personal sacrifice. A leader doesn't just manage tasks. A leader carries burdens. They wake up before others, sleep after them, and think about problems no one else wants to face. The very essence of character is your willingness to say, "This is mine to carry, even if it's heavy, even if no one claps, even if no one sees." Responsibility is the crucible where ego dies. When you accept responsibility, you cannot hide behind excuses. You can't point fingers or shift blame. You stand in the light and say, "If this fails, I will take the fall. If this succeeds, I will share the credit." That's when you begin to grow. Because it is only in the process of carrying something difficult, something greater than yourself, that your soul begins to stretch. The leader who constantly avoids responsibility will never develop the strength to lead others through chaos. They will fold under pressure because they've never learned to stand up under weight. But the one who embraces responsibility begins to undergo a transformation. Each time they do what's right instead of what's easy, they build invisible moral muscle. Each time they own a mistake, they become a little more real, a little more human, and a little more worthy of trust. And over time, those around them start to notice they don't just follow the leader's orders, they follow the example. Because something inside every human being responds to integrity. We crave it, we recognize it, and when we see someone carrying real weight without complaint or pretense, we instinctively believe in them. There's another layer to this. Responsibility doesn't just build your character, it also protects your leadership from corruption. Power is intoxicating. It can blind you, inflate your ego, and tempt you to serve yourself. But the discipline of taking responsibility acts like an anchor. It reminds you, this isn't about you. You're not here to shine, you're here to serve. And the weight of that awareness is what keeps leaders grounded. The more responsibility you take, the deeper your roots grow, and only a deeply rooted leader can withstand the storm without snapping. A leader's character is not confined to their private thoughts or carefully worded speeches. It seeps into the culture of the group silently, consistently, and powerfully. People don't just listen to a leader's instructions, they watch their actions. They take mental notes of how the leader behaves under pressure, how they treat people with no status, how they respond when they're wrong, and how they act when no recognition is on the table. This silent observation forms the moral compass of the team. Whether consciously or unconsciously, people begin to mirror the leader's conduct. That's why a leader's character doesn't just affect their own integrity, it defines the ethical atmosphere for everyone under their influence. When a leader cuts corners, others start to justify shortcuts. When a leader tolerates dishonesty, the whole system becomes infected with it. When a leader treats people as disposable, resentment brews beneath the surface, even if no one dares to speak it aloud. This erosion doesn't happen in an instant. It's a slow, silent decay, but by the time it's visible, the damage is often already deep. On the other hand, when a leader is honest, humble, and principled, that attitude sets a tone of dignity and discipline. People begin to hold themselves to a higher standard because the person above them embodies that standard. This influence is especially profound during moments of tension. When things are going well, it's easy for people to appear virtuous. But when stress hits, deadlines loom, failure threatens, criticism intensifies. That's when the leader's character truly shows. If the leader lashes out, scapegoats, or retreats into denial, they teach others to do the same. But if the leader stays composed, accepts responsibility, and focuses on solutions, they set a living example of strength and maturity. It's in these moments that character proves its weight, not in ideology or words, but in behavior. A true leader understands that they are being watched, not out of paranoia, but out of necessity. The people around them need a moral reference point. They need someone who doesn't waver when it would be easy to, someone who doesn't shift blame when no one would notice, someone who keeps their word even when it costs. Character then becomes contagious, and leadership becomes not just an act of direction, but a force of elevation. You lift others not by commanding them to rise, but by showing them what rising looks like. Every leader eventually finds themselves in a crisis. It could be the collapse of a plan, a betrayal from within, a sudden failure, or an overwhelming force of uncertainty. In those moments, the facade falls away. Titles, status, charm, none of it matters anymore. What remains is the substance of the individual, and that substance is character. It is the invisible backbone that determines whether a leader stands firm or collapses, whether they guide their people through the storm or get swallowed by it. In times of crisis, decisions must be made quickly, often without full clarity or certainty. There is rarely a safe or easy path. A leader who lacks character will default to panic, blame, deception, or self-preservation. They will spin narratives to protect their image, deny responsibility, or sacrifice their team to save their own reputation. This not only exposes their weakness, it actively destabilizes the entire group. Trust evaporates, morale crashes, and people become disoriented. A leader who cannot lead with integrity in crisis does not just fail, they create chaos. But a leader of character responds differently. They may not have all the answers, but they do not flinch from the weight of the moment. Their people can see it in their eyes, a calm rooted in conviction, not performance. They tell the truth even when it's painful. They accept the gravity of the moment, and instead of hiding, they lean into it. They don't pretend to be invincible, but they are responsible, and that sense of personal accountability reassures everyone else. It says, "We are not lost, I will not abandon you." This doesn't mean they never feel fear. On the contrary, they feel it deeply, but character allows them to master their fear instead of letting fear master them. And that internal clarity allows them to act not impulsively but deliberately. They focus on what can be done, who must be protected, what values must not be compromised. Even if they make mistakes, those around them forgive easily because they see the leader's sincerity. Character in a crisis does more than hold the leader together, it holds the entire system together. It becomes the anchor in the storm, the compass when the map is gone. Ultimately, the true test of leadership isn't how you perform when everything is going well. It's who you are when everything falls apart. In those moments, people don't follow credentials, they follow courage. And character is the deepest form of courage there is. In the end, leadership is not primarily about vision, charisma, or even strategy. It is about character. The quality of a leader's inner life determines the quality of their outward influence. Without character, leadership is dangerous. With it, leadership becomes transformational. What matters most is not how loud a leader speaks, but how deeply they stand. People don't remember the leaders who impressed them with cleverness. They remember the ones who inspired them with integrity. Character gives leadership its moral legitimacy. It is the foundation that holds every other quality together when things get hard, uncertain, or painful. The truth is, real leadership cannot exist without responsibility. Titles don't make you a leader, ownership does. The ability to shoulder weight, to stand firm under pressure, to say this is mine to carry, that's what separates the shallow from the strong. And this strength doesn't come from comfort or applause. It comes from countless quiet decisions to do what is right, not what is easy. In the process, the leader becomes not just someone who gives direction, but someone worth following. Responsibility builds depth, and depth is what gives a leader unshakable roots. That's why leadership isn't something you do, it's something you are. A leader's actions create an atmosphere, whether they realize it or not. Every small decision, every reaction under stress, every choice when no one is watching, these become signals to others. The leader sets the tone for what is acceptable and what is expected. And when a leader embodies truth, fairness, humility, and strength, that character becomes contagious. It changes the room, the team, the culture. Great leadership elevates not just outcomes but people. It demands more of those who follow and gives them a reason to rise to the challenge. In this way, character doesn't just influence others, it empowers them. Perhaps most importantly, when the inevitable storms of life and leadership hit, character is the only thing that will not be stripped away. Everything else, reputation, status, image, can be shattered in a moment. But character endures. It's the compass when the path disappears, the strength when resources are gone, the trust others lean on when fear takes over. Crisis reveals what's real, and if you have character, you can still lead even in darkness. That's why character is not optional in leadership. It's essential. It is the soul of influence, the root of trust, and the difference between leading people and merely managing them. Thank you for taking the time to watch this speech on the importance of character in leadership. Your attention and support mean more than words can express. Leadership today needs more than ambition. It needs integrity, courage, and deep moral strength. If this message resonated with you, I encourage you to reflect on your own path, your own influence, and the kind of example you want to set in your life. Please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel if you found this valuable. Every action you take helps spread these messages to others who might need them. Together, we can shape a generation of leaders rooted in character, not just credentials. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, what leadership means to you, and how character has shaped your own journey. Your voice matters, and your story may be the light someone else needs. Until next time, stay true to your values, lead with integrity, and never underestimate the quiet power of doing the right thing, especially when it's hard. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.